Good morning. Today we'll be talking about the orbit. The main objectives which you are supposed to know at the end of the session are: you should know about the contents of the orbit, what is orbital fascia, also called as periorbital fascia, what is bulbar fascia or Tennant's capsule. You should know about the extraocular muscles, both the voluntary and involuntary muscles, its attachments, nerve supply, action, and applied aspects. Apart from that, we are going to know about the ophthalmic artery. And last but not the least, you should be able to answer the assignment. So coming to the orbits, these are pyramidal cavities situated one on each side of the nose. The long axis passes backwards and medially. Both the medial walls are parallel to each other, but the lateral walls are set at right angles to each other. So main contents of the orbit are: it contains the eyeball, the two fascia called as orbital fascia and the bulbar fascia, the extraocular muscles, the vessels which include the ophthalmic artery, superior and inferior ophthalmic veins, the lymphatics, the various nerves, that is the second cranial nerve or the optic nerve, oculomotor nerve, the trochlear nerve, abducent nerve, and branches of the trigeminal nerve, that is the ophthalmic and maxillary divisions of the trigeminal nerve, and last but not the least, the sympathetic nerves. Apart from this, it also contains the lacrimal gland and the orbital fat. So coming to the orbital fascia or the periorbital fascia, it is also called as the periosteum of the orbit. It is loosely attached to the bone and easily stripped. Posteriorly, it is continuous with the dura of the optic nerve, and anteriorly, it is continuous with the periosteum lining the bones around the orbital margins. So there are various modifications. It's going to fill the gap in the inferior orbital fissure with connective tissue and smooth muscles. These fibers constitute the orbitalis muscle. It forms the orbital septum. So the fascia sends flaps into the eyelids. It forms a pulley for the superior orbital muscle, and it forms the lacrimal fascia which bridges the lacrimal groove. So these are the various modifications of the orbital fascia. Next, coming to the bulbar fascia, also called as Tennant's capsule, is the facial sheath of the eyeball. It is loosely attached. It's a membranous sheath which surrounds the eyeball. Posteriorly, it extends from the optic nerve and anteriorly up to the sclerocorneal junction, also called as a limbus. It is separated from the episcleral space by delicate fibrous bands. The eyeball moves freely within this sheath. It is pierced by various structures, so mainly by the tendons of various extraocular muscles. the ciliary vessels and nerves around the entrance of the optic nerve. So coming to its modifications, it forms tubular sheath which covers the various extraocular muscles. It forms a medial check ligament. This is a strong sheath of fascia which is going to ensheath the medial rectus muscle, and it is also attached to the lacrimal bone. The lateral check ligament is a sheath which surrounds the lateral rectus muscle, and this is attached to the zygomatic bone. The last modification is the suspensory ligament of Lockwood. So this extends from the medial check ligament to the lateral check ligament. It forms a sheath which covers both the inferior rectus and inferior oblique muscles. It forms a hammock and thereby suspends the eyeball. So next, coming to the extraocular muscles. These are subdivided into involuntary muscles and voluntary muscles. The involuntary muscles are superior tarsal, inferior tarsal, and orbitalis muscle. The voluntary muscles are the 4 recti, 2 oblique, and levator palpebrae superioris. So first we'll take up the involuntary muscles. These are the superior tarsal. It is a deeper portion of the levator palpebrae superioris. It is inserted into the upper margin of the superior tarsus. It elevates the eyelid. The inferior tarsus muscle. This extends from the facial sheath of the inferior rectus and inferior oblique to the lower margin of the inferior tarsus. It probably depresses the lower eyelid. Next, coming to the orbitalis muscle. This bridges the gap of the inferior orbital fissure. Its action is uncertain. Next, coming to the voluntary muscles. We have the recti muscles which are 4 in number, the oblique muscles which are 2 in number, and the muscle of the eyelid which is called as the levator palpebrae superioris. So coming to the 4 recti muscles, we have the superior rectus, inferior rectus, medial rectus, and lateral rectus. The 2 obliques are superior oblique and inferior oblique, and the muscle of the eyelid are the levator palpebrae superioris. This elevates the upper eyelid. So before going on to the attachments of the various muscles, let us know something about the superior orbital fissure, which you are going to see from the orbital surface. This is bounded superiorly by the lesser wing of the sphenoid, which is demonstrated as number 1, inferiorly by the greater wing of sphenoid, which is demonstrated as number 2, and medially by the body of the sphenoid, which is demonstrated as number 3. We have the annular tendinous ring of Zinn, which is demonstrated as number 4, which encircles from the spine, from the greater wing of sphenoid, which encircles the optic canal and thereby divides the superior orbital fissure into 3 compartments: the medial compartment, the lateral compartment, and the middle compartment. So various structures are going to pass through each of these compartments, which you can read in detail in your osteology. So coming to the attachments of the voluntary muscles, the 4 recti muscles arise from the common annular tendinous ring of Zinn, that is the superior rectus, inferior rectus, medial rectus and lateral rectus. Apart from that, the lateral rectus has an additional origin. It also arises from the orbital surface of the greater wing of the sphenoid. So coming to the superior oblique muscle, this muscle arises from the body of the sphenoid, just superomedial to the optic canal. The inferior oblique muscle, while all the other extraocular muscles arises from the interior of the orbit, this muscle arises from the anterior aspect of the orbit. It arises from the orbital surface of the maxilla, just lateral to the lacrimal groove. So it is present in the anterior margin of the orbit. So levator palpebrae superioris, this arises from the orbital surface of the lesser wing of the sphenoid, anterior to the superior to the optic canal. So now we have completed the origin of all the muscles. Coming to the insertion, the 4 recti are inserted to the sclera, just posterior to the limbus. So limbus is also called as a sclerocorneal junction. So insertion of the superior oblique muscle. This muscle passes through the fibrous pulley. It passes laterally, downwards and backwards below the superior rectus. It is inserted into the sclera behind the equator between the superior rectus and inferior rectus. So the inferior oblique muscle, it passes laterally, backwards, below the inferior rectus and deep to the lateral rectus. It is inserted close to the superior oblique. The levator palpebrae superioris is further divided into 2 components, the superior and inferior components. The superior, also called as the voluntary component, is inserted to the anterior surface of the superior tarsus and skin of the upper eyelid, while the inferior, which is called as the involuntary component, inserted to the upper margin of the superior tarsus. So coming to the nerve supply of all the extraocular muscles, the superior oblique is supplied by the 4th nerve, also called as the trochlear nerve. The lateral rectus is supplied by the sixth nerve, also called as abducent nerve, and the remaining recti, that is superior rectus, inferior rectus, and medial rectus. Apart from that, we have the inferior oblique and levator palpebrae superioris. All are supplied by the third nerve or the oculomotor nerve. So, in short, to remember, we have to remember by this mnemonic, all the extraocular muscles are supplied by the third nerve, that is oculomotor nerve, except SO4, that is superior oblique, by the trochlear nerve, and LR6, that is the lateral rectus, by the abducent nerve. So, coming to the movements of the extraocular muscles, mainly we have the elevation, depression, medial rotation, lateral rotation, intorsion, and extorsion. So, elevation, depression, medial rotation, lateral rotation, intorsion, and extorsion. So, action of these various muscles. So, elevation. So, mainly elevation is brought about by the superior rectus and the inferior oblique muscle. The depression is brought about by the inferior rectus and the superior oblique muscle. The medial rotation is brought about by the medial rectus, the superior rectus, and the inferior rectus. The lateral rotation is brought about by the lateral rectus, the inferior oblique, and the superior oblique. Intorsion is brought about by the superior rectus and the superior oblique, and extorsion is brought about by the inferior rectus and inferior oblique. So, coming to the action of individual muscles, the superior oblique mainly causes depression, abduction, and intorsion. Inferior oblique causes elevation, abduction, and extorsion. Inferior rectus causes depression, adduction, and extorsion. Superior rectus causes elevation, adduction, and intorsion. Medial rectus only adduction, and lateral rectus only abduction. So, coming to the applied anatomy, mainly we have the squint. So, this is due to either weakness or paralysis of the individual extraocular muscles. Apart from that, we have nystagmus, involuntary rhythmical oscillatory movements. This may either be due to vestibular, cerebellar, or congenital. So, here you can visualize the squint eye, medial squint of the right eye. So, next coming to the ophthalmic artery, it's a branch of the cerebral part of internal carotid artery. This artery enters the orbit through the optic canal, inferolateral to the optic nerve, in a common dural sheath. It pierces the dura and ascends lateral side of the optic nerve. It crosses the nerve from lateral to medial along with the nasociliary nerve. It then runs along the medial wall of the orbit between the superior oblique and medial rectus. It terminates near the medial angle of the eye by dividing into supratrochlear and dorsal nasal branches. So the branches are the central artery of the retina. It's a very important artery. It's the first branch. This artery pierces the dura, runs a short distance and enters the substance of the optic nerve. So that is very important. It runs within the substance of the optic nerve, and at the center of the optic disc it divides into branches. It is an end artery. That is very important. It's an end artery. Occlusion causes blindness. So it can be visualized by ophthalmoscope. The next artery is the lacrimal artery. So various branches arise from the lacrimal artery. So this artery supplies, as the name itself signifies, the lacrimal gland, that is called as the glandular branches. It gives two zygomatic branches, that is the zygomatico-temporal and zygomatico-facial. The lateral palpable, which supplies the eyelid, recurrent meningeal branches, and muscular branches to the extraocular muscles. So branches which arises from the main trunk are posterior long ciliary arteries, which supply the choroid and iris of the eyeball, the supraorbital and supratrochlear arteries, anterior and posterior ethmoidal arteries, medial palpable arteries, and dorsal nasal branches. So coming to the assignment, the main question to be asked are enumerate the extraocular muscles. So we have to mention both the voluntary as well as involuntary muscles, attachments, nerve supply, action, and applied anatomy. The semi-essay questions are superior orbital fissure. So you should know the boundaries, you should know its subdivisions and structures passing through each division. The orbital fascia or the periorbital fascia, the bulbar fascia, also called as Tennant's capsule, and the ophthalmic artery.